Yo, what's going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, it's that time of the month again where we do our tier list. It's the end of November, and in today's video, we are going to rank the SUGOs that have released within the month, do a bit of a change up to our tier list, and talk about the level limit breaks that have come to the game. We have a bunch of new legends. We have Zoro to talk about, we have Orochi, we have the 6+ of Kid, and then we have like 5 new level limit breaks that we're going to take a look at as well. I didn't get a chance to do a level limit break video of this particular batch, just with Pokemon and all these other stuff in life. Sort of take up most of my time. I thought I would just sort of cover it here, so this might be a long one. So if you enjoyed the video, belt the like button for me. If you're new to the channel, hit the big red subscribe button. With that said, let's dive into the tier list of November 2022. Alright, so here is last month's tier list. It looks a little bit like this. Now, before we dive in, huge shout out to Tier List Maker, link in the description as always, as well as the database, OPTC database, for the images provided. So, we have our top 10. If you guys are new to this, we have our top 10. These are my top 10 legends in the game. I do like to rank legends on viability and usability. So, a legend can be really, really good, but if they don't work in a particular piece of content, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like having a Lamborghini and then giving it like a 40km/h speed limit, or like living in an area where there's lots of hills and lots of turns. You can't really use it to what it's actually designed to be doing. So that's where like units will drop off. Obviously, every month this tier list is subject to change. Every month, different classes get boosted. Every month, different types get boosted. And obviously, we are looking at these characters across the board. So stuff like PvP, Grand Voyage. Grand Voyage is probably the lowest, as well as PvP in terms of my ranking system. But we still need to recognize the value of a unit in that particular game mode. The downside with PvP, obviously, they have their own kits and stuff, and I do like to do PvP tier lists, but with Grand Voyage, it's so specific to specific units, but Grand Voyage can still be cleared just on the regular basis. I don't recommend doing that, but, like, it still can be done. Treasure Map and Kizuna for endgame players are probably going to rank their characters a little bit higher. If a character is really good in Kizuna or Treasure Map, especially Super Boss Kizuna, most people will rank them fairly highly, and honestly, for myself, Kizuna and regular play is where I rank these characters the most. When it comes to speed, power, versatility of these characters, that's where I like to use them. I like to take characters into Garbage Challenge 13 stars, Grand Voyage, Forest, and then obviously Kizuna, because that's where you sort of get your big damage, you get your speed, you get your usability out of these particular characters. And if they're really good there, that's where they're going to find their way up the top. And as you can see, the top level of characters are all very, very good. Whitebeard and Roger, for me, I still think is the best unit in the game. Whitebeard and Roger make every and any team better. As you guys saw in Super Boss Kizuna, they're still viable under Kaido for stuff like striker teams. Straw Hat Crew, easily the best last tap in the game. Very versatile as a captain. Great special. Uta, honestly, Uta probably has the best special in the game, mainly because it doesn't trigger interrupts. And obviously with Kaido and strikers, you can do a lot of big damage stuff, and she's very, very versatile. She's also quite fast with her captain ability and having utility in her captain. Captains with utility will obviously make their way up the tier list quite easily. K-Dad, I think I'm going to drop K-Dad back here. After seeing them in Super Boss, I wasn't super impressed, mainly because like Kaido, he still does it better. Luffy was still like a staple to hybrid with this unit. And besides, like, regular play in Kizuna, I thought that's where, like, K-Dad would shine the most. However, they're still very, very good in Treasure Map, too, with their super class ability. So in the next Treasure Map, when we see them without Zoro, we might see them, like, sort of shining a little bit more as well. But I don't think they're top 5 anymore. I wasn't in the impression with their last tap they were 4th, and then these two units were interchangeable. But I do think they're probably sitting right on the cuff of 5th if you do this sort of interchangeable stuff. But Luffy and Kaido, as you guys saw in Super Boss, they still reign supreme, and these 5 units at the top here are all very, very good. Honestly, for me, I'm going to drop Uta back behind Luffy and Kaido. I do think Luffy and Kaido definitely deserve the 3rd spot. Whether you think Kaido's 3rd because you rank Kizuna and Treasure Map higher than you rank the rest of the game, then I would definitely accept that. But for me, Luffy destroys stuff like Garbage Challenge 13 stars, Forest, way better than Kaido does. He's super tandem in my opinion, and like getting access to it every single turn is incredibly valuable. Plus, he's just like a 3.5 times attack boost. He provides so much for his team with his Despair removal as well, which is very undervalued. Tandem Orbs, very, very good. So for me, I like Luffy more than Kaido. But look, I just don't like this Kaido. Like, I can respect what he does. When it comes to Super Boss Kizuna, if you can use Kaido, you use Kaido. It's as simple as that. No one does it better. K-Dad came very, very close with boosted stats, but without boosted stats, Kaido was just still the king, so it is what it is. But for Luffy was doing crazy damage against in super bosses. He's doing crazy damage against quick super bosses. Unfortunately, it was cheesable this time with the HP cut strats. But look, for me, this is still my favorite legend of the game. I love using this Luffy, and wherever I can, I definitely use him. Ace Yamato has dropped off for me quite a bit. They're amazing in Grand Voyage. However, the people like to use the argument to me for this unit that you never see their super swap. And whilst I agree, there are situations that you do. Namely stuff like Forest, namely stuff like 13-star Garbs challenges, namely stuff like Grand Voyage, and in Super Boss Kazuna when you get the charge like reduced. So you do see it, but for me, there was just better options every single time in Kazuna. But whenever someone said to me, "Hey Stump, I need a replacement for Sop," I'd be like, "Yeah, just use Yamato Ace." Like, "Oh, hey, Stump, I need a replacement for Ben Beckman Lucky Row." I was like, "Yeah, just use Yamato Ace." "Oh, I need a chain boundary unit." "Yeah, just use Yamato Ace. They give you a conditional as well." "Oh, I need a conditional unit. I don't have anyone." "Just use Yamato Ace." There was so many times through Super Boss that I was like, "Yeah, just use Yamato Ace." Plus, on my 10-star teams, for my big damage 10-star teams with the boosted units, Yamato and Ace found their way on pretty much all of them. So I do think they are very, very versatile when it comes to 10-star Kazuna clashes, just like this Luffy is an absolute god for, just like this Kaido is an absolute god for big damage as well. So works nicely. This lore, I love this lore so much. As you guys saw in Super Boss, he was so good. He still stays so good. I think he's probably one of the best designed units of this year. The ability to set defensive hero by tapping with an orb. He's super tandem. He's amazing. And he's a lore unit. Next, we've got Snake Man. Snake Man's captain of just popping specials and being all your damage is insane. I can't wait for an Int Super Boss to come back and hybrid this guy up with this guy once again, because they did crazy things last time Super Boss was live. There was a lot of boosted units, but obviously once you can use like Sop on that team, you can use stuff like Odin on that team. There's a lot of damage potential literally just with 1 to 2 units, which is crazy. Next, we've got Ace and Sabo. Ace Sabo, for me, I have them here just because of Grand Voyage. Now, Grand Voyage, like I said at the beginning, it doesn't rank very highly for me in terms of this tier list, but it does have to be recognized as the hardest piece of content in the game, but it is so specific for this particular units. With Ace Sabo, they take down like 3 different Grand Voyages. They do the shooter, the deck shooter, the Free Spirit, Quick, and I think there's another one they do. I want to say there's another one, but I might be wrong there. Nevertheless, they're pretty much a staple on the 1 verse Buggy, and they're very, very key on the Usopp one as well. So I think they're amazing, especially in long content too. They have healing, they have utility in their captain. They're very, very good. Absolutely amazing. If you guys like big damage more than you want to say Kids up here, I'd accept that. If you want to say Yamato's up here because like of the damage potential Yamato has, I'll definitely accept that too. But for me, just because like I do want to shed light that Grand Voyage is still a big part of the game, and that is the big reason why they're up here. As for the God tier, these units aren't really in particular order, but Kids, Super Tandem's amazing with Strikers, Yamato with the Striker, either version is really, really good. Also, these 2 units are amazing in PvP. Bon Clay, I do believe is probably on the cusp of top 10 as well. I believe like probably Yamato and Bon Clay are on the cusp a little bit. Carrot Wanda, I use them so religiously. Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo are absolutely insane. Sasaki, in my opinion, has probably dropped off a little bit, but Toki has definitely got a rise for me. Toki in the last month has been so good. Same with the waifu. So as of this month's sort of release, like I do think Kids probably dropped back a little bit, but what he does with his Super Tandem is really, really good. It's just so hard to get. As for the God tier range, I don't really want to change anyone. I think everyone's pretty much fine here, except like I really want to push Shanks up too, because like if you guys rank Kazuna like highly, you can't deny what this Shanks does in Super Boss Kazuna. He's by far the best unit for versing strength, but in regular play, here's a little bit less to be desired. As for Sop, I need to put Sop into God tier. Like they have to rock up here, and for that reason, I think I'm gonna make way with Sasaki. Sasaki, I think hasn't really been used over the last month. I do think he's probably at the top end of the all-rounder, but he hasn't really been used as much. So as we saw in Super Boss, he wasn't used against Quick either. So it kind of dropped off a little bit for poor old Sasaki. That doesn't mean he's bad. It just means that as of this month, like Sop, I do believe is like on your Beckman Lucky Root tier. Toki was absolutely insane for Kazuna once again. She always is, to be honest. As for the S tier captains, all of these characters are very good captains. Most of the time, you'll be using them as captain. Kaido is the exception here. He's always at the bottom because if you're using Kaido, you bet your ass you're using him as a captain. It's very rare you're using him as a sub. The S tier level limit break 5. These are the best level limit breaks in the game, in my opinion. Kaido, not Kaido, Bullet is the best, and then Corazon not far behind. I love what they've done with these two units back here, and Shanks is just so good as well. S tier subs, these guys are always going to find your way as a sub potential on the team. For stuff like Big Mom, she's great because she can just like get around all resilience. You got big damage with page 1 ulti, Carrot for getting around defensive effects, Pudding for cooldowns and getting around interrupts. Sober Mask with his Sailor, Wano Law with his Chain Boundary shenanigans. As you guys know, like I don't have to go through all these units. You guys pretty much know what they are. A tier captains sort of drop off compared to these captains. They're still good, but I wouldn't really focus on them too much for what they actually do. Character that I do want to actually bump up is Final Tap Luffy. Final Tap Luffy showed his worth, something fierce in Super Boss, and for that reason, I'm going to put him in S tier sub. I don't know how long that'll last, but look, it has to be recognized that this guy was a GOAT in the Super Boss. I just have to give that recognition. Shout out to Jin. Level limit break 5, A tier. These guys are all very, very good, but they're just still a little bit off the mark. The S tier, obviously, these guys here, you kind of want these guys max level limit break, and Super Evolved, most of them are Super Evolutions. I think all of them actually are Super Evolutions. Yeah, all of them are Super Evolutions. So that's kind of fun. As for your A tier subs, this is where we start to drop off, and we get all the way down to B, and then into Content Requires and Niche. These Content Requires characters are stuff like Buggy, Frankie for getting around Damage Limiter, Poison stuff with Reiju, XP with Jack, Cheese strats with Mihawk, Jumping with Sanji. That's what these kind of characters are sort of doing. As for Sanji, actually, Sanji has a level limit break. I just don't think it's a crazy level limit break, yet I do think it's okay. So I'm going to put him up here in A tier level limit break. I think that definitely needs to be recognized. As for this bottom section here, these are the characters that need a level limit break or a 6+. As you can see, Rayleigh is definitely going to come out of that tier because we're going to talk about Rayleigh today. The bottom tier are basically only used for supports nowadays. However, we are taking Garp, we are taking Law, and I think that's pretty much it. This Luffy has a level limit break, but like it's actually so bad that like you don't have to worry about it. He's literally just still used as support, which is kind of depressing. Then there was a couple other units. So we have this Law for level limit break 2. There was a couple other units that got level limit breaks. We have Katakuri from Content Requires and Niche, the 2 Katakuris with their side grades. And I do believe that was actually it. As for the new legends that we're going to talk about, we have the PvP legend Orochi. We have the treasure map legend Zoro. We have the 6+ of Kid. And we have the version 4,085,000,000 Olin Int Powerhouse unit. So, as for the tier list, if you guys want to have a quick squiz here, this is what it looks like. You guys can go back to the previous tier list as well. I'll leave a link in the description for that if you guys want to check that out. But pretty much everything stands a little bit. Big changes, obviously, K-Dad dropping out of top 5. Bringing Sop up into the God tier is definitely something. And then sort of dropping Sasuke down. Just because this month he sort of just didn't get that much love. So yeah, with that said, let's take a look at the level limit breaks of the month. And let's see how they went. Alright, so the first level limit breaks we're going to talk about are the Katakuris. Katakuri has a side grade, so he got 2 separate level limit breaks. Yes, 2 separate level limit breaks. Let's talk about the strength one first, the original. He reduces crew's cooldown by 1 turn at the start of the fight. Beautiful. Boosts fighter, striker, shooter, cerebral, powerhouse characters by 2.15, approximately 4.62 if you have both the classes. Makes quick side recovery tandem orbs matching. Reduces damage by 20%, and it delays all enemies for 1 turn at a fixed base rate at 20% for 100,000, 50% for 500,000, 100% for 1,000,000, and 100% through immunity with 2 million damage. He's special, doubles damage dealt to 2 enemies for 2 turns, boosts the classes he boosts by 2.25 orbs for 2 turns, changes their block slots and type slots into character zone type, reduces their cooldown by 1, delays all enemies for 1 turn, and if the enemy has of the highest max HP is below 80%, he delays that ignores immunity. So, the idea of this unit is obviously to use his special, get the conditional boost, get an orb boost, give you a full board of orbs, which is great. A character that gives you an orb boost and a full board of orbs is very, very valuable. And then you want to delay with his actual mechanic. of the captain mechanic. If they're not immune to delay, though, he'll actually be a self-proccing conditional booster, which is very, very good. Honestly, it's insanely good. For me, getting cooldowns is absolutely amazing. He doesn't have the special reverse sailor ability, however, but this guy can definitely be used as a captain nowadays. 4.62 times. It's very finicky with building teams with him, because you do need to actually get both the classes, but you can easily do some crazy 2-turn bursts, provided the enemy doesn't have an interrupt. The downside is if the enemy has a crazy interrupt, it is going to affect this guy significantly. Nevertheless, though, he can still be used as a really good sub. 2.25 times orb boost for 2 turns, and gives you a full board of orbs no matter what. Reduces special charge, which is also very, very handy. You can use stuff like Brule for the final stage as well, to get that cooldowns if they're special reverse. So you can do some really cool things on a 10-turn cooldown, by the way. 10-turn cooldown. For that reason, his utility across 5 different classes: fighter, striker, shooter, cerebral, powerhouse. You can do some really, really cool stuff with this particular category. And I actually really like the strength category's level limit break a little bit more than what the int one actually provides. But let's take a quick look at the int one. At level limit break 5, his captain ability will also reduce cooldowns by 1 turn. He boosts slasher, striker, driven, cerebral, and powerhouse characters' attack by 2.2 times, and which just goes up to 4.84 if you have both classes. He then makes strength, side, recovery 10 and have matching slot effects, and reduces damage by 20%. And then he also has the delay mechanic exactly the same as the strength one. 1 million he's a guaranteed, 2 million with going through immunity, and then the rest is kind of whatever. So different orbs, different classes, which is quite interesting. His special, though, reduces the cooldowns of striker, slasher, driven, cerebral, powerhouse, and does 100 times his attack in non-type damage and tap timing for 3 turns. He changes empty block, bomb, recovery, and G slots to matching for those classes, and then makes type slots have matching slot effects for 3 turns. So again, he basically gives you a full board of orbs, but in my opinion, he does it a little bit better than what the 6+ does. Instead of giving an orb boost now, he actually gives an attack boost by 2.25 for 2 turns, and if you land 3 perfects, he then gives you a 2.25 conditional boost against delayed. So the idea with him is they're very similar, but for me, he's an attack booster, which normally is a lot better, right? Normally is a lot better. However, in this situation, because you get a full board of orbs with this guy, I do kind of like the orb boost a little bit more. This guy has way better classes, though: driven, striker, slasher, cerebral, powerhouse, compared to the shooter that the 6-star has. But honestly, the two of them are sort of too much and much between. There's not a huge difference, besides this one being cerebral and shooter, this one being striker, powerhouse. You can use them on 2 very different teams. The downside to this unit is getting his skulls is quite challenging. I think I might make a video actually on the Skull Island for you guys, because farming out the skulls in that sort of period of time that you get to sort of chop and change between categories might be beneficial moving forward. So very, very good level limit break for the main man, Mr. Slam Jam. Shout out to the king. I really like what they've done. I really like the shenanigans with the delay, but also giving him utility with stuff like attack and orb boosting as well, which is really, really cool to see. The next level limit break that we're going to talk about is the Laws. Now, Law is a bit of an interesting one because, again, he got a side grade as well. By the way, that was Katakuri. This Katakuri that we just read was Katakuri without his limit break expansion. I do believe the multipliers will probably just be a little bit higher. He might have an extra effect, but I haven't really seen what the level limit break of Katakuri does. Let's quick. He gets a little bit more attack, which is interesting. So he goes up to 2.3 times 2. Yeah. Cool. Man. Sick. So just a little bit more damage. Just a little bit. Or he also gives HP. Fairly nice. It's fairly nice for this category. So that's enough about Slam Jam. Moving on to Law now. Law obviously has 2 side grades as well. And we're going to talk about the Cerebral variation first. So this guy here is the Cerebral version. He has a side grade, as I mentioned. His level limit break captain reduces cooldowns by 1. Goes up to 2 with his limit break expansion. Boost cerebral characters by 5 times, 5.25 with limit break expansion, 4.5, with the matching slot, 4.5 times otherwise, 4.75 times otherwise. So a little bit of an extra damage boost if you have limit break expanded for whatever reason. 1.3 times HP, makes quick recovery and tandem slots have beneficial, and heals 0.5 recovery for every perfect at the end of the turn. If you have limit break expanded, it's 1 times his recovery, so that's kind of cool. His special reduces enemies' barriers by 2 turns, reduces cooldown by 1 turn, reduces bind and despair by 5 turns, and then deals 400,000 to all enemies. Boosts Cerebral's orbs by 2.5 for 1 turn, and then increases their base stats by plus 500. So, the big thing that I notice here is this guy gives cooldowns, which is great. He also removes Bind and Despair by 5 turns, which gives him quite nice utility, especially with Corazon. You can turn that into 7. Then he also still does his crazy orb boost, but it's increased to 2.5 times instead of 2.25. Then with an addition of base stats, you guys have seen how strong that can be with Kingdom on Dendro. This is really, really good. Like, it's a really, really good level limit break. I think it's probably around the same tier as what Blackbeard can provide. Mainly because, like, you have the utility in there as well. But it's still like there's other units that can kind of do it better. But nevertheless, like, in the certain situation of barrier removal, getting an orb boost, getting some utility, like, this guy's doing a lot now for what he actually provides to his actual team. The striker variation, though, in my opinion, probably has a little bit more versatility because it kind of opens the door now to Kaido and those striker teams. The downside is they're both orb boosters, which is kind of a little bit of a bummer. Law as a striker reduces cooldowns by 1 turn, 2 with limit break expansion. Boosts strikers by 5 times to the matching slot, 4.5 times otherwise, and again it goes up by 0.25 if you have your limit break expanded. Makes quick slots have beneficial effects and heals for 0.5 is recovery for every perfect. If you have him limit break expanded, he's a 1 times healer and has 1.3 times HP is the big difference. He's special on turn 1, stage 1, deals 100,000 to 1 enemy, and then reduces Bind and Despair by 2 turns, changes his own slot into matching, and doubles Striker's orbs for 1 turn. If you already have an orb boost, though, he doubles Striker character's attack for 1 turn. Very, very interesting that he's now an attack booster, as well as an orb booster, provided you actually have an orb boost. He deals 500,000 damage to 1 enemy on stage 2, reducing Bind and Despair by 4 turns, and changes adjacent slots, including blocking, to matching, and boosts striker character's orbs by 2.5 for 1 turn. If your HP is 80% or higher when launching a special, cuts the crew's HP by 50% and reduces his own special cooldown by 6 turns. So the idea of this is, ideally, I think he's on like a 6-turn cooldown with his stage 1. The idea of this is you basically pop his stage 2, you get the Bind and Despair, and then you get you some matching orbs, you get a crazy orb boost, and then you get your cooldown back, so then that way you can actually pop it again, get 6 turns of Bind and Despair, change his own slot into matching, so that way you can just get like your orb, because he does the Jason on the first time, and then doubles the attack because you already have an orb boost. I love this design. I think this design is insanely cool, and for me, I honestly want to put it like up here somewhere. The Striker lore, it's just so cool how he works so well with himself. However, he's not designed for like the craziest damage output teams. He's not designed for like the big be-all, end-all. Nevertheless, though, he's still very, very good, and his level limit break is insanely powerful. I can't wait to finish this guy up and actually try him out. I think he just uses regular skulls, so you can kind of chop and change between, so you don't need 2 copies anymore. But for you whales out there that finish both of them, like more props to you, I guess. On to the next level limit break now, we have Garp. And Garp was one of my favorite of this particular batch. Garp got an insane buff. Garp, with his level limit break, doesn't get a change with limit break plus, by the way. Reduces cooldown by 1 turn at the start of the fight, 4.5 times Rainbow Captain, and HP by 1.5. Very, very tanky. Makes Psi Int recovery beneficial to the crew, and then obviously with the Whale Shark you can make tandem. Love to see it. Boosts crew's attack by 5.5. Instead, after landing good, great, perfect. Shout out to those guys without breaking the chain. And he reduces crew's special reverse by 2 turns. Just a cheeky little 2-turn special reverse, which is always quite nice. His level limit break special on stage 1 will reduce HP by 10%, ignoring defensive effects. And then he's a chain boundary from 3.25 going up to 4 times for 2 turns and reduces special binds by 5 turns. The chain boundary is a huge improvement, and the fact it's for 2 turns means you can carry it into the next stage and get around stuff like annoying chain locks. Absolutely amazing on a very, very low cooldown, by the way. His stage 2, though, cuts one enemy's HP by 30%, ignoring defensive effects, sets the chain boundary from 3.25 to 6 times for 2 turns, and then changes the growth rate of good, great, and perfect hits to 0.3, it's 0.3, 0.6, 0.9, and then reduces 10 turns of special bind. This is insane. If you guys have seen what Zoro can do with chain shenanigans, giving a chain boundary and then increasing like perfects by 0.9, and obviously this works amazing with his captain ability. This is actually ridiculous. He still has his crazy utility with special bind. He has special reverse, but it's only by 2 turns, but like it's still very, very nice. built into his captain as well. And I think this is probably one of the best level limit breaks we've seen. He's up there with Bullet and what they've actually done. Chain Boundary is infinitely better than Chain Lock, and the fact that they've just completely changed that for this guy is so freaking good. Going up to 6 times, you might be like, oh, but Stump, it caps at 6. It's actually fairly challenging to hit a 6 times chain multiplier. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Especially if you're running like Garp as your captain. If you do all the chain shenanigans, normally you're hitting it around like, you're above 6, but like, at least with this guy, you're actually capping at 6. And you are going to get there fairly easily. So you can do some really, really cool stuff with Garp. I'm really keen to actually trial him out. I do have a lot of sort of content in mind to do with these level limit break characters. I just don't have enough hours in the day, if I'm completely honest with you. So I'll have to wait and see if I can get around to doing something with Garp, because he does seem very, very cool. The last level limit break character on the list is actually Rayleigh. So I haven't spoken about Rumble of these particular characters, because I don't really believe that the rumble of any of them is really that significant. Totally forgot, by the way, we need to talk about Frankie. We're going to bring Frankie down here too. Frankie's another unit that we need to talk about too. But yeah, as I was saying, Rumble is something I haven't spoken about with these level limit breaks, because I don't think these characters even touch anywhere in Rumble still. Except for the last two. We have Rayleigh and we have Frankie. Both these guys have been used in Rumble in the past, so I am going to touch on their Rumble abilities. But don't stress when it comes to category, when it comes to lore, when it comes to... lore might be an interesting one. Lore might work in Rumble. Nah, he doesn't seem that great in Rumble. Yeah, nah, he doesn't seem that great in Rumble. But these two characters, Frankie and Rayleigh, definitely were. So let's talk about Rayleigh quickly. I love this Rayleigh. I loved him on release, and I actually really like what they did with his level limit break. His level limit break captain reduces the crew's cooldowns by 2 turns, and then boost the crew's attack by 4.5 times, and HP and recovery by 1.25. If you are below 50%, boost their attack by 5 times, and greatly boost the chance of landing on their type slot. The greater the rate, the lower the HP. So, Rainbow Captain, 4.5, 2 turns cooldown at the start of the quest. Just very, very nice. 5 times if you are low HP, and obviously Rayleigh's designed, Cerebral's designed to be at low HP. His level limit break plus captain, though, reduces crew's special cooldown by 2 times, and then is a 5 times attack, going up to 5.25 if you're below 50%. He then greatly boosts the chance of landing on your character's own type. And if you are below 20% of your HP, he launches his special at the start of the crew's next turn. Very, very interesting mechanic. A self-proccing special captain. Very, very nice to see. His special deals 500k damage to one enemy, ignoring defensive effects. Locks the chain for 3 turns, which is a bit of a bummer because it's a chain lock. But the chain lock did go up from 3 to 3.5. And it's for 3 turns, which is very, very good. Mainly you'll be using this to get around stuff like your chain lock shenanigans and in regular play rather than stuff like Kazuna. He doubles crew's orbs for 1 turn, and if you're 50% or under, reduces damage by 95% and changes all orbs including blocking to matching. If you land 3 perfects, he then boosts the crew's orbs by 2.25 for the next turn. So you can get a lot of damage with this guy over 2 turns. I like what they did with Rayleigh. I really do. He's a speed farming captain now. He does a lot of really cool stuff. But compared to the other units of this batch, I do think he got the short end of the stick when it comes to stuff like damage output. However, he is a rainbow captain, which is very, very nice to see. I just think Garp, like if you look at what Garp does, being a 5.5 with good, great, perfect, it's absolutely insane. Rayleigh, though, he's very good. I'm not discrediting that Rayleigh's not very, very good. I just think that, like, they could have done a little bit more. He's quite intricate in the way that you have to be at low HP. I'm not a huge fan of being at low HP, but I do like what they would, like, thinking of. And if you kind of do some shenanigans with these guys and, like, cut HP with Dogstorm, and then you're using something like Rayleigh, you can do some really, really cool stuff. Like, really, really cool stuff with the Cerebrals. You can also use the Striker Lore, this guy here, who cuts HP as well, and do some pretty funky stuff there as well. But obviously, he's designed for Strikers rather than Cerebrals and Free Spirits. But Rayleigh, really, really cool. The upside to Rayleigh, though, too, is that he was really, really good in Rumble. In Rumble, his special targets large range for 2100 fixed damage, and he gives attack up and defense up level 6 for 20 seconds. His passive gives level 6 HP up, and if you're below 70%, gives level 5 defense, level 5 guard. I do believe that was once level 3 and like level 5 HP, so it isn't a nice, chunky, significant buff. And for stuff like Cerebral teams, for Dex teams, this guy can definitely find a place on those teams still. The final level limit break is Frankie. Frankie. General Frankie is an interesting one, because he went around the damage, the damage limited debuff, which was very, very annoying to deal with. But Frankie was always able to get around that. And now, Frankie has a viable captain and a very viable special, which makes him so freaking cool for when that content comes back around. He's level limit break captain. If all 6 characters on the crew are either fighter, slasher, striker, or shooter, reduces crew cooldowns by 1 turn, boosts their attack by 4.5, HP by 1.5, very, very tanky Frankie. Makes tandem and recovery beneficial, and when the general Frankie captain action is launched, additionally boosts their attack by 4.75, reduces damage by 38%, and makes the crew immune to blow away, and then it gives different effects depending on what class they are. Fighters do a butt ton of damage, like they do an insane amount of damage under Frankie. Slashers have like a radius effect, shooters hit all enemies, and strikers, I think, hit like in like a straight line or something like that. But fighters are usually the ones you want to go for when you are building teams with Frankie. However, he's a shooter, so he can sort of like wipe out mobs and stuff too. And you can do some really, really cool things with General Frankie. General Frankie obviously got around the damage limiter as well, which makes him so viable in such particular pieces of content. And you can make him into a really, really good hybrid option with stuff like some super class units, some super type units. But obviously, these characters that aren't getting their 6+ and just getting regular level limit break, they do struggle compared to the characters that have super type and get their 6+ and their level limit break as well. So that is like the big thing about these guys. As for Frankie, his level limit break expansion, wow, that was a mouthful, is now a 4.75 rainbow captain, and then goes up to 5.25 in the general Frankie form. And that's all I can really see with the big buffs. But 5.25 when you're in General Frankie is absolutely monstrous. His level limit break special reduces all enemies' HP by 20%, changes slots randomly including blocks unless matching, and makes type slots beneficial for 1 turn. So he basically just rotates all of your orbs, and as a captain he makes tandem and recovery beneficial, so he just gives you a full board of orbs, which is really, really cool. He then will boost fighter, slasher, striker, shooter characters' attack by 2.5 times, which is massive. And if the character is in the top row, negates all attack reducing orb effects for 1 turn, and reduces enemies' percent damage reduction, threshold reduction, and paralysis by 6 turns. Absolutely monstrous utility if you're using Frankie as a captain. That's the downside here. You have to use him as a captain to get all these crazy effects. The negates all attack reducing orb effects for 1 turn is exactly the same as Sabo and Koala. We finally have a unit that can do what Sabo Koala did. Like after 3 years. However, it is only for 1 turn, so just be mindful of that. And this is what I mean by essentially he gives you a full board of orbs. I really like what they did with Frankie. Like I do want to put him at the back end of S tier, mainly because he still has the ability to get around the damage limiter, and the fact that his numbers have just been increased when he could already do what he did is exceptional. As a captain, he gets crazy utility, and whilst you do lose out on a super type or a super class, you have access to General Frankie, which is very unique in itself. So having the captain action kind of takes the place of super type and super class anyway. And for me, honestly, I really like Frankie. I changed my mind actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think he's better than Law. I think he's better than 2.5 times attack and all that. He's up there with Garp, to be honest. Really, really good. I really like what they did with Frankie. I'm really keen to use him too because I actually have him maxed out. Same with the Garp. But that's enough about level limit break. Let's move on to the crux and let's talk about the new characters and the new legends in the game. Alright, so we're going to start with PvP Orochi. Mr. Orochi is the PvP legend. No superclass, no super type. He's a driven powerhouse, quick character. Boosts driven and powerhouse characters. He's a orb booster and he's a color affinity booster. Quite a significant one at that. And he increases, if you have the extra damage debuff, he increases it by 0.3. This guy was kind of designed to be used with super type Kaido. This guy... Right, where is he? Where do I even have super type Kaido? This guy right here. He's designed to be used with super type Kaido because as a captain, when you take damage, he gives himself cooldown. And then obviously with Kaido, if you take a significant amount of damage, you can actually get the auto trigger of Kaido's special. So he's a very good captain, if I'm honest, even without a super type or a super class. Even without all of those shenanigans, he's actually fairly decent when it comes to a captain ability. I just don't think that he's sort of all that anymore. Luffy and Law, by the way, I'm going to drop them into A tier sub. I think they've seen their time as A tier captain. I don't even know why they're up there. They should be an A tier sub. Orochi hybriding with this guy here, you can do some really cool stuff with. For me, I don't love the playstyle of taking damage and then getting cooldowns. It just makes things a little bit slower. But nevertheless, I can definitely appreciate what Orochi can do. If you take him into stuff like Forest, if you take him into places like Garp challenges, he can do some really cool stuff. But without a level limit break, without a... Sorry, not a level limit. Without a limit break... What am I trying to say? Without a super type or super class, they were way off. What are you talking about, Stump, you pelican? It kind of hinders this unit quite significantly. He does give cooldowns, but as a sailor... He doesn't have the special reverse mechanic, but he does have the ability to give himself cooldowns every time a driven or powerhouse unit uses a special, so you can do it that way. But for me, like, I just don't love this unit. He's a 4.5 times captain, which is great. He has a lot of HP at 1.75. He increases damage taken as well, so that way you can actually get Kaido to pop off really drastically. And then after you take 50,000, he becomes a 5.25 times captain, 2,000 healing, damage reduction, which is really, really good. But like I said, it's kind of like what Sabo can do, right? Like, Sabo is really, really good, but like without a super type, without a super class, it just lacks on this unit quite significantly. But nevertheless, he is definitely an A tier captain, nonetheless. Sabo should be in like A tier level limit break, by the way. Definitely in the A tier level limit break. Because I do think he's better than these A tier subs, and like, obviously you need to have him at level limit break to make him anywhere near these particular characters. Hell, that's the reason I have these friggin' tiers, right? The level limit break tiers. But Orochi, I get what they were doing, like, and whilst I do, like, you can use him with also Int Yamato, this Yamato up here as well. You can definitely use him alongside that. But as a sub, like, he just doesn't provide too much. As a captain, he's quite intricate in terms of, like, the shenanigans he's trying to pull. And honestly, all the characters up here, like, in terms of powerhouse anyway, or driven, like, I'd rather run you, I'd rather run you, I'd rather run you, I'd rather run you, even though you're not a powerhouse captain. I'd rather run you. I'd much rather run you, or you, or you, like, or you. So, like, you guys get what I'm saying with Orochi. He's not all that. He's not bad, but he's just not all that. Next, we have Kid. Now, Kid is a very, very interesting spicy kettle of fish, because Kid was completely mistranslated, and I gave a very different opinion of Kid than what initially was. Now, with his level limit break, and he's 6+, he's a Dex driven booster. The driven for me is absolutely crucial. If you guys haven't seen my showcase of what he can do with some driven hybrid stuff, he is so good when you hybrid him up with some other driven units. However, he's still very, very squishy. He boosts their attack by 4.75, he boosts all other characters by 4.25, and then boosts Dex and driven attack by 5.25 when they have a bomb or super bomb, making tandem into bomb, greatly boosting the chance of landing on tandem, and makes bomb and super bomb have massive slot effects and deal 0 damage. When you tap with a bomb or super bomb with Kid, though, he has 5 turns of damage reduction utility in his kit, which is actually very, very cool. It's a very, very interesting mechanic, and I like that they're doing it because he's a very, very good unit. For me, though, in terms of like super evolutions, in terms of like his level limit break, I definitely think he's an S tier level limit break. I just don't think he's like super, super crazy. I do like Ace a lot more. I think Ace is the best super evolution of the year. But look, would Kid be the next in line? Possibly. Blackbeard had a pretty good one too. His special reduces 7 turns of threshold, removes strength, dex, bomb, super bomb, and deals damage up to 3.5 million, depending on how many you throw at the enemy, and then turns MD into super bomb slots. He boosts dex and driven characters' attack by 2.5, and then changes the attack multiplier of super bomb into 2.25 when slots match. So the idea of this guy is basically, he's still a 2.5 times attack boost, which is great. It's actually amazing, but the extra addition of the 0.25 for super bomb is not that drastic. It's good extra damage, but it's not like insane. However, it is a new multiplier that no one else can do besides Corazon and Law. Where is Corazon and Law? These guys right here. Besides what Corazon and Law can do with the empty orb mechanics, these two are the only units that can do that. And the reason I think I like Corazon and Law a lot more than what Kid can do is because Corazon and Law do it for 3 turns, and that can't be like removed, which is like kind of nuts. I think Red Haki actually might remove the buff, and then you're kind of just stuck with empty orbs, which is kind of a shame. But with Kid, you don't have a way to sort of keep the super bomb orbs unless you lock them. With Kid, I do believe, like, I would have loved to just seen like a lock orb mechanic and just made him so viable for getting around stuff like super tandem, because super bomb, empty orbs, rainbow orbs, one orbs are the only real way you can get around that super block mechanic as of right now. And Kid is one of those ways. You just have to find a way to lock orbs, which is kind of a bummer. A big knock I have with Kid too is it's 7 turns of threshold, and then when you tap with a bomb or super bomb, it's 5 turns of damage reduction. I understand you can use the killer support, but that just obviously uses your support slot to get the 7 turns of damage reduction. But like, why didn't they make it 6 and 6? Like, 6 is what we see in Kazuna. It just doesn't make sense to do 7. It's 6 without his level limit break expansion, but like, it's just very odd to me. Like, it's very odd. His multiplier as well, 2.5 times attack, is exactly the same as what it already was. They've just added Driven, which whilst is still a magnificent buff, the 2.5 is just like, it's been there, done that kind of situation. So, Kid, very, very good. His super type did get a much big buff as well, giving super bomb slots now, not regular bomb. Even though in-game, it still says changes block slots to bomb. It's actually super bomb, which is a massive, massive difference. And honestly, with that and the damage reduction effects, that's what makes this guy so goddamn valuable in terms of use of regular play. In terms of like Kazuna and stuff, you're never going to use him because he can't use Super Tandem. The ability to lose out on Super Tandem drastically nerfs his character. And honestly, there's no way around actually like getting that because he makes tandem slots into bomb slots. So just be mindful if you're ever using this guy as a captain, you're never going to see Super Tandem, and it is what it is. I would have loved to see recovery into bomb, but look, we can't have everything, right? He's good. He's great 6+. I like what they're doing with these 6+. Ace is absolutely fantastic. Shiki, absolutely fantastic. Blackbeard, absolutely incredible. Kid, very, very good. Honestly, would I say Kid's better than Shiki? I don't know. I really like what they did with Shiki. I honestly think Shiki's like up here somewhere, to be honest. If I'm being completely real, Shiki should be way higher on this list than what I'm actually putting here. Honestly, so should probably Blackbeard. If I'm being completely real with you guys, they should probably be up here somewhere. But nevertheless, this isn't really in any order besides, like, this guy is the king. As for the next unit on the list, we have Zoro. Now, Zoro and K-Dad, I love these units so much. If you guys didn't see what I did with Zoro, we actually managed, and K-Dad as well, we actually took him into the Kid Forest, and we no-stalled it with double Zoro. I did it with double K-Dad too, but, like, I thought that was actually, like, revolutionary. But the thing with K-Dad is they didn't use Wadger. Zoro, unfortunately, he needed to use Wadger. But Zoro has a very interesting kit, right? His captain ability is a slash of free spirit attack by 5.4 times with slots match, 5.25 otherwise, HP 1.2, and reduces damage taken by 10%. If you tap on a tandem or a Wano slot, you'll then further increase any chain multiplicative additive boost by 0.25. So any chain boost that is a plus chain boost, you will add 0.25 if you tap with a Wano or a tandem orb, which is pretty good because you have stuff like Hiyori as supports. It's pretty good because you can use stuff like Super Tandem Luffy, and it's actually very, very nice. His special cuts the crew's HP by 20%, great for getting around stun, deals 1 million fixed damage that ignores all defensive effects including normal attacks only, reduces damage reduction and threshold by 6 turns, and boosts Slasher and Free Spirit's character's chain multiplicative growth rate by up to 0.6. So 0.2 with goods, 0.4 with great, 0.6 with perfects. Now, I'm just realizing when I was talking about Garb, I said something like 0.9. That's incorrect. It was up to 0.6. I do apologize about that. But with Zoro, if you have a tandem or one orb on your captain, you get an extra 1.5 times chain multiplicative buff. Zoro can get up to 0.9 chain buff every time you hit a perfect, which is absolutely insane. You hybrid that with something like a chain multiplier buff, a chain boundary unit, and you can do some pretty crazy things. Absolutely wild things. He's super class as long as you have Luffy, Sanji, any of the Straw Hats basically, or Yamato and Hiyori. And then, or if you have a slot boost and a type effect boost, you can then activate his super class mechanic, which is a super class slasher, giving 2.5 times attack to free spirit and slasher characters, and 75 times characters attack in non-type damage to all enemies. So very, very good for stuff like Treasure Map. Very, very good for like not like getting around interrupts that have attack boosters. However, the downside I do find to this guy is that he doesn't have a way to generate tandem or Wano orbs. For me, it seems like he was made to be used as a sub under K-Dad, and for that reason, he kind of just doesn't find his way into the top 10 for me. I really, really, really like Zoro. Like, trust me, I really, really do. But for me, I do think he's probably up here in the God tier somewhere. Like, he's sort of floating around in this sort of section here. As for characters to be moved out as God tier, I think it's time that we moved Roger out. Roger sort of just like, he stays winning, to be honest, but like, nowadays, he's just an S tier all-rounder for me. Like, use him as a captain, use him as a sub, it is what it is. As for Kinemon Dendro, I'm going to move Kinemon Dendro down into, honestly, S tier sub, because that's pretty much what they've become. Their Super Swap is quite valuable, and they were great for Super Boss, but you're never really running this guy as a captain anymore. So nowadays, he's actually going to find his way all the way down to S tier sub. Zoro, for me, he's probably on the cusp of top 10. If you guys wanted to take out something like Sabo and Ace, honestly, if you took out Sabo and Ace and put Zoro into the top 10, I wouldn't be mad. But for me, like, lately, I think even, like, Bond Clay probably makes a better argument for top 10 than what Zoro does. Nevertheless, like I said, Sabo Ace, they're up here to sort of just recognize that Grand Voyage is such a big part of the game, unfortunately. But Zoro, definitely a god tier unit, great as a captain, great as a sub. The downside is when you are building teams, you're pretty much only going to use him underneath something like this guy, underneath something like these guys. But if you do use him as a captain, you really want to make sure you have this Hiyori sub on him, so that way you're getting yourself a Wano orb. Nevertheless, I do like what they did with Zoro. I still think that he probably should have had a Super Tandem mechanic. Whilst that is quite controversial to some, being a limited unit, because these guys are obviously limited to special banners, just like the waifus are. I just think Super Tandem is the most powerful mechanic in the game right now in terms of damage output, and giving this guy a Super Tandem, imagine if they gave him like a Super Tandem ability where he added like an extra multiplicative buff on top of his like chain shenanigans, because just like what Blackbeard does kind of thing, that would stack. Kind of like, say for example, they did like a Kaido situation. 2 times attack to slashes and free spirits, and then gave an extra 1.5 chain multiplicative buff, and you could just like send the chain to the absolute wazoo, but you have to attack with like 2 slashes and a Luffy or a Straw Hat character. Like, you could have just done some really crazy ass things with this Zoro unit. Nevertheless, though, he does work amazingly well for the Super Tandem of this particular Luffy. So there is also that. But for slashes, I just would have loved to have seen say 3 slashes and then any of the Straw Hats. Would have been really, really cool. And just, like I said, do some crazy ass chain shenanigans. On to the final unit, we have Olin the Orion version 4,025,000,025. Like, I'm going to type in Big Mom in my phone, like, right now. My actual search feature. And I'm going to go int powerhouse Big Moms. And pause the video. Let me know how many int Big Moms driven powerhouse Big Moms you think we have in the game. Just pause the video right now. And let me know how many you think. Alright, you pause? You pause it? We have a total of 8 int driven powerhouse Big Moms. Now, obviously, they're not all int driven powerhouse. In terms of int driven powerhouse, we have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we have 3, 4. We have 4. But all in total, we have 8 int Big Moms that are either driven or powerhouse. It's actually wild. It's insane why we have so many int driven powerhouse Big Moms. But look, we have another one. And obviously, this is kind of revolved around Hera. Now, this unit is quite interesting. I think she benefits from being a driven powerhouse, don't get me wrong, and an int character, because like all 3 of them are very, very powerful. But in terms of what she does, I don't think she's the best of that sort of pool of fish. She reduces special charge by 1 turn at the start of the quest, boosts int driven and powerhouse characters attack by 5.25 and HP by 1.65, so very tanky. Makes crews strength int tandem slots have matching slot effects, and reduces characters special charge by 2 turns at the start of the quest. No, just special charge by 2 turns after receiving damage. Wow, that was words hard. Just like Blackbeard, if you take damage, just like Orochi, if you take damage, you get 2 turns of cooldowns. And you need that 2 turns of cooldowns, trust me. Because at max special level, Big Mom has a 34 turn cooldown. 34 turns. Actually ridiculous. However, at level 1, it's on 14 turns, and this is the one you're going to see most of the time. 10% HP cut makes all block orbs changes all orbs, including block, into tandem. Applies the Ignite and Paralysis effect for 3 turns, 100 times enemies attack in burn, and 30% chance to paralyze. Doubles damage to enemies affected by Ignite and Paralysis for 3 turns, and then boosts int-driven powerhouse characters' base attack by 1,000 for 3 turns as well. Then heals the crew by the number of enemies defeated by normal attacks by 15 times, characters' recovery at the end of 3 turns as well. So, basically what this means is she's a 2-time self-proccing conditional booster, gives you a full board of tandem orbs, and no, the paralysis and the burn do not stack. It's 1 2 times conditional boost. It works exactly the same as Perona's. to a T. You just need one or the other to actually get it off. And it works nicely. Say the enemy's immune to burn, you can use paralysis. If they're immune to paralysis, you can use the burn. That's kind of what it means. But it also opens the door to using subs like Versa Kainu and getting like the burn mechanic there, because you can be like a guaranteed conditional boost with Big Mom and you're using like hybrid Akainu by taking burn damage. You can do stuff like that. But nevertheless, again, when it comes to Driven Powerhouse, like Queen, Kainu, like look how many options you have for Driven and Powerhouse captains. Like, it's actually wild. Like, just look for a second. Like, it's disgusting. And I just don't think Big Mom like takes the cake. I don't see her using her as a captain in any regard over some of these other characters. However, if you're taking like HP cuts every single turn and you need a lot of HP, Big Mom might be the character for you. Or if you get your cooldowns at the start of the quest maxed, like in Grand Voyage, like in Forest and stuff, where you can see the level 3, she might be very, very beneficial. And the reason I say that is because at level 3, she goes up to a 2.25 times conditional boost and a 1500 base stat boost, which is actually pretty nice. So she's got good orb manipulation. She also increases the attack and orb boost by 0.3 with her level 3. But at like 34 turns, like you're never seeing that, right? 1500 base stats is the highest in the game with Bond Clay, but base stats has dropped off so significantly with level 150 with Limit Break expansion and like the power creep. Like 1500 kind of doesn't cut it that much anymore, but it is still the highest when it comes to base stat boosting anyway. Nevertheless, I think she's an S tier captain. Like, you can do some fun stuff with her. I just don't see her even cracking this section at the top here. But nevertheless, like I said, she definitely can be used as an option on the powerhouse driven team or on an int team nevertheless as well. I do believe she was kind of built for like Grand Party, because like she's so boosted around Grand Party at the moment. She does have a super type though if you have any of the Big Mom Pirates or Kaido and Otama. It's basically just like Pero, Kata, Cracker, Smoothie. Or if you use 4 specials throughout the run. So you can still get it without these characters. But she has a super tandem, so you kind of want one of those characters anyway. She deals 100 times an attack to all enemies, so great for stuff like Treasure Map. And then she gives 3 turns of cooldowns to the top row, and then gives a 2.25 a color affinity boost to Int Driven Powerhouse. So she has a good super type. Giving herself cooldowns is great there. Obviously, if you take damage, she gets cooldowns as well. And her super tandem gives a 1.25 Driven Powerhouse tandem boost as long as you tap with 3 or more driven or powerhouse characters, plus one of the following being Kaido, Katakuri, Perispero, Smoothie, Cracker, or Otama. At level 5, that goes up to a 2 times attack boost. You only need to tap with 1 driven or powerhouse character and then that other character. So like you can go like any driven powerhouse, Cracker, Big Mom, and then you're good to go. She reduces damage reduction by 2 turns at level 5 and gives a 2 times attack boost to Driven Powerhouse. So she's an interesting character, but like I said, I don't think she's better than Top Musica. I don't think she's even at the pinnacle of Driven Powerhouse, to be honest. But like I said, if you guys like taking damage, if you like doing some shenanigans that way, she is an intriguing character and she's an interesting character. And I do like that characters like this are in the game, but it's just an easy skip to prepare you guys for New Year's that is around the corner. But that's going to wrap up the tier list today. Like I said, it was a bit of a long one, and I do apologize, but for all you absolute chads that got this far, don't forget to belt the like button for me if you're new to the channel or you haven't done so already. Hit that big red subscribe button. Most importantly, though, wherever you guys are in these beautiful worlds, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later!